Mm. I remove from inside. It's a full one. I just remove one from it.
Chapter 14. Brahma's Prayers to Lord Krishna. This chapter describes the prayers Brahma offered to Lord Krishna, who is also known as Nandanandana. For his satisfaction, Brahma first praised the beauty of the Lord's transcendental limbs, and then declared that his original identity of sweetness is even more difficult to comprehend than his opulence. Only by the devotional process of hearing and chanting transcendental sounds received from Vedic authorities can one realize the personality of Godhead. It is fruitless to try to realize God through processes outside the scope of Vedic authority. The mystery of the personality of Godhead, who is the reservoir of unlimited spiritual qualities, is inconceivable. It is even more difficult to understand than the impersonal Supreme. Thus, only by the mercy of God can one understand his glories. Finally realizing this, Brahma repeatedly condemned his own actions and recognized that Lord Shri Krishna, the ultimate shelter of the universe, is Brahma's own father, the original Narayan. In this way, Brahma begged the Lord's forgiveness. Brahma then glorified the inconceivable opulence of the personality of Godhead and described the ways in which Brahma and Shiva differ from Lord Vishnu, the reason for the Lord's appearance in the various species of demigods, animals, and so on, the eternal nature of the pastimes of the personality of Godhead, and the temporality of the material world. By knowing the Supreme Personality in truth, the individual spirit soul can achieve liberation from bondage. In actuality, however, both liberation and bondage are unreal, for it is only from the living entity's conditioned outlook that his bondage and liberation are produced. Thinking the personal form of Lord Krishna illusory, fools reject his lotus feet and look elsewhere to find the Supreme Self. But the futility of their search is the obvious proof of their foolishness. There is simply no way to understand the truth of the personality of Godhead without his mercy. Having established this conclusion, Lord Brahma analyzed the great good fortune of the residents of Vraja and then personally prayed to be born there, even as a blade of grass, a bush, or a creeper. Indeed, the homes of the residents of Vrindavan are not prisons of material existence, but rather abodes envied even by the Gyanis and Yogis. On the other hand, any home without a connection to Lord Krishna is in fact a prison cell of material existence. Finally, Brahma offered his whole self at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, and praising him again and again, circumambulated him and took his leave. Lord Krishna then gathered the animals Brahma stole and led them to the place on the Yamuna's bank where the cowherd boys had been taking lunch. The same friends who had been present before were sitting there now. By the power of Krishna's illusory energy, they were not at all aware of what had happened. Thus, when Krishna arrived with the calves, the boys told him, quote, "You've returned so quickly. Very good. As long as you were gone, we couldn't take even a morsel of food, so come and eat." Laughing at the words of the cowherd boys, Lord Krishna began taking his meal in their company. While eating, Krishna pointed out to his young friends the skin of the python, and the boys thought, quote, "Krishna has just now killed this terrible snake," end quote. Indeed, later they related to the residents of Vrindavan the incident of Krishna's killing the Aga demon. In this way, the cowherd boys described pastimes that Lord Krishna had performed in his Balya age, 1 to 5, even though his Pogonda age, 6 to 10, had begun. Shukadeva Goswami concludes this chapter by explaining how the gopis loved Krishna even more than they loved their own sons. Text 1. Lord Brahma said, "My dear Lord, you are the only worshipable Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore I offer my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you. O son of the king of the cowherds, your transcendental body is dark blue, like a new cloud. Your garment is brilliant like lightning, and the beauty of your face is enhanced by your gunja earrings and the peacock feather on your head. Wearing garlands of various forest flowers and leaves, and equipped with a herding stick, a buffalo horn, and a flute, you stand beautifully with a morsel of food in your hand. Purport. In the previous chapter, Brahma, the creator of the universe, tried to bewilder the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, by stealing his cowherd boyfriends and calves. But by a slight exhibition of Krishna's own mystic potency, Brahma himself was completely bewildered, and now with great humility and devotion he offers his humble obeisances and prayers unto the Lord. The word kavala in this verse refers to a morsel of rice mixed with yogurt that Krishna held in his left hand. According to Sanatana Goswami, the Lord held a cowherding stick and a buffalo horn pressed under his left arm, and his flute was placed under his belt. Beautiful young Krishna, decorated with multicolored forest minerals, exhibited opulences far greater than those of Vaikuntha. Although Brahma had seen innumerable four-armed forms of the Lord, he now surrendered unto the lotus feet of the two-armed form of Krishna, who appeared as the son of Nanda Maharaj. Brahma offered his prayers to that form. Text 2. My dear Lord, neither I nor anyone else can estimate the potency of this transcendental body of yours, which has shown such mercy to me, and which appears just to fulfill the desires of your pure devotees. Although my mind is completely withdrawn from material affairs, I cannot understand your personal form. How then could I possibly understand the happiness you experience within yourself? Purport. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chapter 14, Srila Prabhupada explains that in the present verse, Lord Brahma expressed the following prayerful sentiment, quote, Your appearance as a cowherd child is for the benefit of the devotees, and although I have committed an offense at your lotus feet by stealing away your boys and calves, I can understand that you have bestowed your mercy upon me. That is your transcendental quality. You are very affectionate toward your devotees. But in spite of your great affection for me, I cannot estimate the potency of your bodily activities. It is to be understood that when I, Lord Brahma, the Supreme Personality of this universe, cannot estimate the childlike body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then what to speak of others? And if I cannot estimate the spiritual potency of your childlike body, then what can I understand about your transcendental pastimes? Therefore, as it is said in Bhagavad Gita, anyone who can understand a little of the transcendental pastimes, appearance, and disappearance of the Lord immediately becomes eligible to enter the kingdom of God after quitting the material body. This statement is confirmed in the Vedas, where it is stated simply, quote, By understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can overcome the chain of repeated birth and death. I therefore recommend that people should not try to understand you by their speculative knowledge, end quote. When Brahma disrespected the supreme status of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna first bewildered him by exhibiting the Lord's own transcendental power. Then, having humbled his devotee Brahma, Krishna gave him his personal audience. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lord Krishna's transcendental body can also function through the agency of his plenary expansions, called Vishnu Tattva. As stated by Brahma himself in the Brahma Samhita, 532, Angani yasya sakalendriya vritimanti. This verse indicates not only that the Lord can perform any bodily function with any of his limbs, but also that he can see through the eyes of his Vishnu expansions, or indeed through the eyes of any living entity, and similarly he can hear through the ears of any Vishnu or Jiva expansion. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that although the Lord can perform any function with any one of his senses, in his transcendental pastimes as Sri Krishna, he generally sees with his eyes, touches with his hands, hears with his ears, and so on. Thus he behaves like the most beautiful and charming young cowherd boy. The Vedic knowledge expands from Lord Brahma, who described in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam as Adikavi, the primeval Vedic scholar. Yet Brahma could not understand the transcendental body of Lord Krishna because it is beyond the reach of ordinary Vedic knowledge. Among all the transcendental forms of the Lord, the two-armed form of Govinda, Krishna, is original and supreme. Thus, Lord Govinda's pastimes of stealing butter, drinking the gopis' breast milk, tending the calves, playing his flute, and playing childhood sports are extraordinary, even in comparison with the activities of the Lord's Vishnu expansions. Text 3. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge, and with their body, words, and mind, offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. Purport. Here, the word udapasya clearly indicates that one should not even slightly endeavor to understand the absolute truth by the process of mental speculation, for it invariably carries one to an imperfect, impersonal understanding of God. The word jivanti indicates that a devotee who always hears about Lord Krishna will go back home, back to Godhead, even if he can do nothing except maintain his existence and hear topics concerning the Lord. Srila Sanatana Goswami has explained the words tanu van manobi, quote, by the body, words, and mind, end quote, in three ways. In reference to devotees, through their body, words, and mind, they are able to conquer Lord Krishna. Thus, becoming perfect in Krishna consciousness, they can touch his lotus feet with their hands, call him to come with their words, and attain his direct audience within their mind simply by thinking about him. In the case of non-devotees, the word tanu van manobi refer to the word ajit, quote, unconquered, end quote, and indicate that those not engaged in the loving service of Lord Krishna cannot conquer the absolute truth by their bodily strength, verbal expertise, or mental power. Despite all their endeavors, the ultimate truth remains beyond their reach. In reference to the word jita, quote, conquered, end quote, the words tanu van manobi indicate that the pure devotees of Lord Krishna conquer his body, words, and mind. Lord Krishna's body is conquered because he always remains by the side of his pure devotees. Lord Krishna's words are conquered because he always chants the glories of his devotees. And Lord Krishna's mind is conquered because he always thinks about his loving devotees. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained the words tanu van manobi in regard to the word namanta, quote, offering obeisances, end quote. He explains that the devotees can take full advantage of the transcendental topics of the Lord by offering all respects to those topics with their body, words, and mind. One should engage his body by touching the ground with his hands and head while offering obeisances to the topics of the Lord. One should engage his words by praising transcendental literatures such as Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as the devotees who are preaching such literatures and one should engage his mind by feeling great reverence and pleasure while hearing the transcendental topics of the Lord. In this way, a sincere devotee who has acquired even a small amount of transcendental knowledge about Lord Krishna can conquer him and thus go back to home, back to Godhead. Text 4. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of a speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. Purport. Loving service to the Supreme Person is the natural and eternal function of every living entity. If a person renounces his own constitutional function and instead laboriously seeks so-called enlightenment through impersonal speculative knowledge, his result is simply the trouble and bother that come from following an artificial process. A fool may beat an empty husk, not knowing that the grain has already been removed. Similarly, foolish is the person who throws his mind again and again into the pursuit of knowledge without surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is the very substance and goal of knowledge, just as a grain is the substance and goal of the entire agricultural effort. Vedic knowledge, or indeed material science without the personality of Godhead, is exactly like an empty and useless husk of wheat. One may argue that by practicing yoga or cultivating impersonal knowledge, one can acquire prestige, wealth, mystic powers, or even impersonal liberation. But these so-called gains are actually useless because they do not situate the living being in his constitutional position of loving service to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, such results, being superfluous to the living being's essential nature, are impermanent. As stated in the Nishinha Purana, Patreshu Pushpeshu Phaleshu Toyeshvakrita Labhyeshu Vadaiva Shastu Bhaktiya Sa Labhye Purushe Purane Muktyai Kim Artam Krit Yate Pranatna. Quote, since the primeval personality of Godhead is easily attained by offering him such things as leaf, flowers, fruit, and water, which are all found without difficulty, why does one need to endeavor for liberation separately? End quote. Although the process of devotional service to Lord Krishna is very simple, it is extremely difficult for stubborn conditioned souls who completely humble themselves before the Supreme Personality of Godhead and absorb themselves 24 hours a day in his loving service. The mood of loving service is anathema to belligerent conditioned souls determined to defy God and enjoy. When such stubborn conditioned souls attempt to bypass surrendering to God through proud attempts at philosophical speculation, austerity, and yoga, they are turned back to the material platform by the powerful laws of God and violently merged into the heaving ocean of insignificance called the material world. Text 5. O Almighty Lord, in the past, many yogis in this world achieved the platform of devotional service by offering all their endeavors unto you and faithfully carrying out their prescribed duties. Through such devotional service, perfected by the process of hearing and chanting about you, they came to understand you, O Infallible One, and could very easily surrender to you and achieve your supreme abode. Text 6. Non-devotees, however, cannot realize you in your full personal feature. Nevertheless, it may be possible for them to realize your expansion as the impersonal Supreme by cultivating direct perception of the Self within the heart. But they can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions and all attachment to material sense objects. Only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them. Purport. It is difficult for conditioned souls to understand the transcendental features of the Supreme Lord, as confirmed in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 1-11, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Shabdite. The transcendental existence of God is understood progressively as the impersonal effulgence of the localized supersoul in one's heart, and finally the Supreme Personality of Godhead existing in his eternal abode. Lord Krishna's transcendental existence is beyond the qualities of material nature. Thus here the Lord is referred to as agunashya, without material qualities. Even by practicing yoga or engaging in advanced philosophical speculation, one will find it very difficult to understand clearly the transcendental existence beyond the modes of material nature, and these processes are virtually useless for understanding the Lord's own unlimited transcendental qualities, which are far beyond the impersonal conception of material existence. Only by the mercy of the pure devotees of the Lord, or by associating with the Lord himself, can one begin the process of realizing the personal feature of God, a process that culminates in pure Krishna consciousness, the final and supreme perfection of knowledge. Text 7. In time, learned philosophers or scientists might be able to count all the atoms of the earth, the particles of snow, or perhaps even the shining molecules radiating from the sun, the stars, and other luminaries. But among these learned men, who could possibly count the unlimited transcendental qualities possessed by you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who have descended onto the surface of the earth for the benefit of all living entities? Purport. Srila Sanatana Goswami explains that Lord Krishna is Gunatma, quote, the soul of all superior qualities, end quote, because he gives them life. For example, one may discuss in an abstract way such qualities as generosity, intelligence, and mercy, but they come to life only when a living person exhibits them. Thus, Lord Krishna is Gunatma because he descends to the material world and reestablishes religious principles by exhibiting all good godly qualities himself and inspiring them in others. A living entity who develops the transcendental qualities found in the Lord receives immeasurable benefit and eventually goes back with the Lord to his own abode, where the living entities are liberated and fully endowed with the transcendental nature. Srila Sanatana Goswami further explains that the Lord manifests a specific spiritual quality for the benefit of each living entity. Since there are innumerable living entities within the confines of the material creation, the Lord manifests infinite qualities. Thus, every conditioned soul can appreciate the Lord in a particular way. The example is given here that even if the most learned scholars could someday count the particles of earth, snow, and light, they would still fail to understand the qualities of the Lord. In this example, earth, snow, and light are progressively more subtle. Thus, it is to be understood that there is an increasing difficulty in counting their virtually infinite particles. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, great personalities like Lord Shankarshan actually have counted the number of atoms on the earth and even the molecules in the entire universe. Yet, even such a personality as Shankarshan, who has been continuously chanting the glories of the Lord since time immemorial, has not even approached the final count of those glories. Lord Krishna exhibits his most astonishing qualities during his childhood pastimes in Vrindavan, where he steals butter from the cowherd ladies, dances with his girlfriends, and plays with his cowherd boyfriends as their most dear companion. Although appearing like an ordinary human activities, such sublime pastimes embody Lord Krishna's immeasurable and innumerable beautiful transcendental qualities, which are the life and soul of the pure devotees. Text 8. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains in his commentary that just as a legitimate son has to simply remain alive to gain an inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the personality of Godhead. In other words, he will be promoted to the kingdom of God. The word Susamik Samana indicates that a devotee earnestly awaits the mercy of the Supreme Lord even while suffering the painful effects of previous sinful activities. Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. However, because in his mind a devotee still may manifest the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy without the Lord, and therefore the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. Although a devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate this remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home, back to Godhead. A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode. Therefore he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishment and continues offering respects and obeisances to the Lord with his heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all hardship a small price to pay for gaining the personal association of the Lord, certainly becomes a legitimate son of God, as indicated here by the words Dayabhak. Just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the Supreme Pure, Lord Krishna, without undergoing a rigid purificatory process which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. Text 9. My Lord, just see my uncivilized impudence. To test your power, I tried to extend my illusory potency to cover you, the unlimited and primeval supersoul who bewilder even the masters of illusion. What am I compared to you? I am just like a small spark in the presence of a great fire. Purport. A great fire produces many sparks which are insignificant in comparison to it. Indeed, if one of the small sparks were to try to burn the original fire, the attempt would be simply ludicrous. Similarly, even the creator of the entire universe, Lord Brahma, is an insignificant spark of the potency of God, and therefore Brahma's attempt to bewilder the Supreme Lord was certainly ludicrous. Brahma here addresses Lord Krishna as Isha, which indicates that Krishna is not only the supreme master of everyone, but is also specifically the master of Brahma, who creates the universe directly under the guidance of the Lord, and who indeed is born directly from the Lord's own body. Brahma felt ashamed of his impudent attempt at deluding Lord Krishna, and he was therefore perfectly willing to be punished or forgiven by the Lord according to his decision. If Lord Krishna does not mercifully punish his devotees when they act improperly, their foolishness will simply increase and gradually completely overwhelm their devotional sentiments. Therefore, Lord Krishna kindly disciplines his devotees and maintains them on the progressive path back home, back to Godhead. Text 10. Therefore, O infallible Lord, kindly excuse my offenses. I have taken birth in the mode of passion, and am therefore simply foolish, presuming myself a controller independent of your lordship. My eyes are blinded by the darkness of ignorance, which causes me to think of myself as the unborn creator of the universe. But please consider that I am your servant, and therefore worthy of your compassion. Purport. In his commentary, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Brahma wanted to present the following argument to the Lord, quote, My dear Lord, because I have acted so badly, I certainly deserve to be punished. On the other hand, because I am so ignorant, you should consider me an innocent fool and be merciful to me. Thus, although I deserve both punishment and forgiveness, I humbly beg you to exercise tolerance in this matter and simply forgive me and show me your mercy. End quote. The words Natavaniti indicate that Lord Brahma wanted to humbly remind Lord Krishna that he was, after all, Brahma's father and master, and should therefore forgive the unfortunate transgressions of his humble servant. Every conditioned soul, whether he be Lord Brahma or an insignificant ant, falsely identifies himself with the material world, and in this way forgets his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma, because of his prestigious position as the cosmic creator, also tends to identify himself as the Lord of this world, and thus he sometimes forgets his position as an insignificant servant of the Supreme Lord. Now, by the Lord Krishna's mercy, this false identification is being rectified, and Lord Brahma is remembering his constitutional position as the eternal servant of God. Text 11. What am I? A small creature measuring 7 spans of my own hand. I am enclosed in a pot-like universe composed of material nature, the total material energy, false ego, ether, air, water, and earth. And what is your glory? Unlimited universes pass through the pores of your body, just as particles of dust pass through the openings of a screened window. Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Chapter 5, Text 72, Srila Prabhupada gives the following purport for this verse, quote, "Then Lord Brahma, having stolen all Krishna's calves and cowherd boys, returned and saw that the calves and boys were still roaming with Krishna. He offered this prayer in his defeat. A conditioned soul, even one so great as Brahma, who manages the affairs of the entire universe, cannot compare to the personality of Godhead, for he can produce numberless universes simply by the spiritual rays emanating from the pores of his body. Material scientists should take lessons from the utterances of Sri Brahma regarding our insignificance in comparison with God. In these prayers of Brahma, there is much to learn for those who are falsely puffed up by the accumulation of power." End quote. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chapter 14, Srila Prabhupada further comments on this verse, quote, "Lord Brahma realized his actual position. He is certainly the supreme teacher of this universe, in charge of the production of material nature consisting of the complete material energy, false ego, sky, air, water, fire, and earth. Such a universe may be gigantic, but it can be measured, just as we measure our body as 7 spans. Generally, one's personal bodily measurement is calculated to be 7 spans of his hand. This particular universe may appear to be a very gigantic body, but it is nothing but the measurement of 7 spans for Lord Brahma. Aside from this universe, there are unlimited other universes outside the jurisdiction of this particular Lord Brahma. Just as innumerable atomic infinitesimal fragments pass through the holes of a screened window, so millions and trillions of universes in their seedling form are coming out of the bodily pores of Mahavishnu, and that Mahavishnu is but a part of the plenary expansion of Krishna. Under these circumstances, although Lord Brahma is the supreme creature within this universe, what is his comparison in the presence of Lord Krishna?" Text 12. "O Lord Adhokshaja, does a mother take offense when the child within her womb kicks his legs? And is there anything in existence, whether designated by various philosophers as real or as unreal, that is actually outside your abdomen?" Purport. Srila Prabhupada comments as follows on this verse in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chapter 14. Quote, "Lord Brahma therefore compared himself to a little child within the womb of his mother. If the child within the womb plays with his hands and legs, and while playing touches the body of the mother, is the mother offended with the child? Of course she isn't. Similarly, Lord Brahma may be a very great personality, and yet not only Brahma, but everything that is existing within the womb of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord's energy is all-pervading. There is no place in the creation where it is not acting. Since everything is existing within the energy of the Lord, the Brahma of this universe and the Brahmas of many other millions and trillions of universes are existing within the energy of the Lord. Therefore, the Lord is considered to be the mother, and everything existing within the womb of the mother is considered to be the child, and the good mother is never offended with the child, even if he touches the body of the mother by kicking his legs. Text 13. "My dear Lord, it is said that when the 3 planetary systems are merged into the water at the time of dissolution, your plenary portion, Narayan, lies down on the water. Gradually a lotus flower grows from his navel, and Brahma takes birth upon that lotus flower. Certainly these words are not false. Thus, am I not born from you?" Purport. Although every living being is a child of God, Lord Brahma here makes a special claim because he takes birth on a lotus flower that emanates from the navel of Narayan, the personality of Godhead. Ultimately, all living beings are equally expansions of the transcendental body of the Lord. But Brahma has an intimate relationship with the Lord because of the activities of universal creation, and so he uses the prefix V in the word Vinirgata to beget the Lord's special mercy. Lord Brahma is called Aja because he is not born from any mother, but rather emanates directly from the body of the Lord. As Srila Prabhupada states in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, quote, It is naturally concluded that the mother of Brahma is Narayan, end quote. On these grounds, Lord Brahma is requesting special forgiveness for his offenses. Text 14. Are you not the original Narayan, O Supreme Controller, since you are the soul of every embodied being and the eternal witness of all created realms? Indeed, Lord Narayan is your expansion, and he is called Narayan because he is the generating source of the primeval water of the universe. He is real, not a product of your illusory Maya. Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, Chapter 2, Text 30, Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse as follows, quote, "This statement, which is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.14, was spoken by Lord Brahma in his prayers to Lord Krishna after the Lord had defeated him by displaying his mystic powers. Brahma had tried to test Lord Krishna to see if he was really the Supreme Personality of Godhead playing as a cowherd boy. Brahma stole all the other boys and their calves from the pasturing grounds, but when he returned to the pastures, he saw that all the boys and calves were still there, for Lord Krishna had created them all again. When Brahma saw this mystic power of Lord Krishna's, he admitted defeat and offered prayers to the Lord, addressing him as the proprietor and seer of everything in the creation, and as the supersoul who is within each and every living entity and is dear to all. That Lord Krishna is Narayan, the father of Brahma, because Lord Krishna's plenary expansion, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, after placing himself on the Garbha ocean, created Garbha from his own body. Mahavishnu in the causal ocean and Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, the supersoul in everyone's heart, are also transcendental expansions of the supreme truth." End quote. In his commentary on this verse, Srila Sanatana Goswami has elaborately explained the expansion of the Vishnu or Narayan incarnations in the original form of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. The essence is that although Lord Brahma was born from Lord Narayan, Brahma now understands that Narayan is himself a mere expansion of the original personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. Text 15. My dear Lord, if your transcendental body, which shelters the entire universe, is actually lying upon the water, then why were you not seen by me when I searched for you? And why, although I could not envision you properly within my heart, did you then suddenly reveal yourself? Purport. Lord Brahma here refers to his experience at the dawn of cosmic creation. As described in the second canto Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma took birth on the seat of the giant lotus, whose stem emanated from the navel of Narayan. Brahma was bewildered as to his whereabouts, function, and identity, and therefore he tried to trace out the source of the lotus stem, searching for clear information. Unable to find the personality of Godhead, he returned to his seat and engaged in severe austerities, having been ordered to do so by the transcendental voice of the Lord, who could be heard but not seen. After long meditation, Brahma saw the Lord, but then again lost sight of him. Thus, Brahma concludes that the transcendental body of the personality of Godhead is not material, but rather an eternal spiritual form endowed with inconceivable mystic potencies. In other words, Lord Brahma should not have challenged the personality of Godhead, the Lord of all mystic power. Text 16. My dear Lord, in this incarnation you have proved that you are the supreme controller of Maya. Although you are now within this universe, the whole universal creation is within your transcendental body, a fact you demonstrated by exhibiting the universe within your abdomen before your mother, Yashoda. Purport. Lord Brahma here describes the inconceivable spiritual potency of the Lord. We may find a pot within the house, but we can hardly expect to find the house within the same pot. By the Lord's spiritual potency, however, he can appear within this universe and simultaneously exhibit all the universes within his body. One may argue that since the universes seen by Mother Yashoda within Lord Krishna's abdomen were within the Lord's body, they are different from the illusory material universes manifest externally. Here, Lord Brahma refutes that argument, however. Lord Krishna is Maya Damana, the supreme controller of illusion. By the Lord's own supreme mystic potency, he can bewilder even illusion herself, and thus the Lord actually exhibited all the material universes within his body. This is Mayatvam, the supreme bewildering potency of the personality of Godhead. Text 17. Just as this entire universe, including you, was exhibited within your abdomen, so it is now manifested here, externally in the exact same form. How could such things happen unless arranged by your inconceivable energy? Purport. Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse as follows in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Quote, Lord Brahma stressed herein that without accepting the inconceivable energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot explain things as they are. Text 18. Have you not shown me today that both you yourself and everything within this creation are manifestations of your inconceivable potency? First, you appeared alone, and then you manifested yourself as all the Vrindavan's calves and cowherd boys, your friends. Next, you appeared as an equal number of four-handed Vishnu forms who were worshipped by all living beings, including me, and after that you appeared as an equal number of complete universes. Finally, you have now returned to your unlimited form as the Supreme Absolute Truth, one without a second. Purport. As stated in the Vedic literature, Sarvam Kalavidam Brahma, everything that exists is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, everything is ultimately part and parcel of the Lord's spiritual existence. By Lord Krishna's causeless mercy, Lord Brahma personally experienced that all existence, being the potency of the God, is not different from him. Text 19. To persons ignorant of your actual transcendental position, you appear as part of the material world, manifesting yourself by the expansion of your inconceivable energy. Thus, for the creation of the universe, you appear as me, Brahma. For its maintenance, you appear as yourself, Vishnu, and for its annihilation, you appeared as Lord Trinetra, Shiva. Purport. Although the impersonal Mayavadi philosophers think that the demigods are illusory, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu are stated here to be expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are thus real. Indeed, they are the extraordinarily powerful controllers of the universe. The ultimate truth is a supreme and beautiful person, and thus, throughout the creation of God, we will always find the personal touch. Text 20. O Lord, O Supreme Controller and Creator and Master, you have no material birth. Yet to defeat the false pride of the faithless demons and to show mercy to your saintly devotees, you take birth among the demigods, sages, human beings, animals, and even the aquatics. Purport. Among the demigods, Lord Krishna appears in such forms as Vamanadev, among the sages as Parashuram, among human beings as Lord Krishna himself and as Lord Ramchandra, and among animals as the boar incarnation. Lord Krishna appears among the aquatics as Matsya, the gigantic fish. Indeed, the plenary expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are innumerable, as the Lord relentlessly comes down within the universes to smash the false prides of the atheists and show mercy to the saintly devotees. In another sense, the Lord never appears, since he exists eternally. His appearance is like that of the sun, which is always present in the sky, but which periodically appears to our vision. Text 21. O Supreme Great One, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Supersoul, Master of all mystic power, your pastimes are taking place continually within these three worlds, but who can estimate where, how, and when you are employing your spiritual energy in performing these innumerable pastimes? No one can understand the mystery of how your spiritual energy acts. Purport. Brahma previously stated that Lord Krishna incarnates among the demigods, human beings, animals, fish, and so on. This does not mean, however, that the Lord is degraded by his incarnations. As Brahma clarifies here, no conditioned soul can understand the transcendental nature of the Lord's activities which he enacts through his spiritual potency. Although the Lord is Bhuman, the supremely great one, he is still Bhagavan, the supremely beautiful personality, exhibiting pastimes of love in his own abode. At the same time, he is Paramatma, the all-pervading supersoul, who witnesses and sanctions all the activities of the conditioned souls. The Lord's multiple identity is explained by the term Yogeshwar. The Absolute Truth is the master of all mystic potencies, and although he is one and supreme, he manifests his greatness and opulence in many different ways. Such elevated spiritual matters can hardly be understood by foolish persons primitively identifying themselves with the insignificant material body. These conditioned souls, such as atheistic scientists, consider their own puffed-up intelligence supreme. Gullibly placing their firm faith in material illusion, they are captured by the modes of nature and driven far away from the knowledge of God. Text 22. Therefore, this entire universe, which like a dream is by nature unreal, nevertheless appears real, and thus it covers one's consciousness and assails one with repeated miseries. This universe appears real because it is manifested by the potency of illusion emanating from you, whose unlimited transcendental forms are full of eternal happiness and knowledge. Purport. As an object of enjoyment or a permanent residence for the conditioned souls, the material universe is certainly illusion, nothing more than a dream. One may give the analogy that the vision of abundant water in a desert is no more than a dream, although real water exists elsewhere. Similarly, the vision of home, happiness, and reality within matter is certainly no better than a foolish dream in which repeated miseries appear. In another sense, however, the universe is real. In his commentary on Vedanta Sutra, Srila Madhvacharya has confirmed this by quoting the following statement from the Vedic Shruti mantras: Satyam hi evadam vishvam ashrijeta. Quote, this universe, created by the Lord, is real, end quote. The perfect authority of the Vedas thus certifies this universe to be real. Nevertheless, because our knowledge is stolen by illusion, as indicated here by the words astadishanam, we cannot properly understand this universe or the Supreme Lord who has created it. As the expansion of Lord Krishna, the universe is real and is meant for being engaged in his service. One who accepts the kingdom of God as home, the Lord himself as the object of love, and the material universe as paraphernalia for being engaged in the Lord's service, dwells within eternal reality, wherever he may go, within the material and spiritual worlds. Text 23. You are the Supreme One Soul, the primeval Supreme Personality, the Absolute Truth, the self-manifest, endless and beginningless. You are eternal and infallible, complete and perfect, without any rival and free from all material designations. Your happiness can never be obstructed, nor have you any connection with material contamination. Indeed, you are Long before the creation of any material atmosphere or element, there is no question of material birth for his transcendental body. Similarly, the word purna, meaning, quote, full and complete, refutes the concept of that Lord Krishna could grow, since he is ever existing in fullness. When one's material body becomes mature, one can no longer enjoy as in youth, but the words ajashrashuka, quote, enjoying unobstructed happiness, end quote, indicate that Lord Krishna's body never reaches so-called middle age, since it is always full of spiritual, youthful bliss. The word akshara, quote, undiminishing, end quote, refutes the possibility that Lord Krishna's body grows old or declines, and the word amrita, quote, immortal, end quote, negates the possibility of death. In other words, Lord Krishna's transcendental body is free from the transformations of material bodies. The Lord does, however, create innumerable worlds and expand himself as innumerable living entities. But the Lord's so-called reproduction is completely spiritual and does not take place at a certain phase of bodily existence. Rather, it constitutes the Lord's eternal proclivity to expand his spiritual bliss and glories. As the Lord states in the Shruti, Purvam evaham ihasham, quote, I alone existed in the beginning, end quote. Therefore, here the Lord is called Purusha Purana, quote, the primeval enjoyer. This original Purusha expands himself as the Supersoul and enters every living being. Still, he is ultimately the absolute truth, Krishna, as stated in the Gopal Tapani Upanishad. Ya Shakshad Brahma Parabrahmeti Govindam Sat Shit Ananda Vigraham Vrindavana Sura Rurha Talasinam. Quote, the absolute truth himself is Govinda, who has an eternal form of bliss and knowledge, and who is sitting beneath the shady desire trees of Vrindavan, end quote. This absolute truth is beyond material ignorance and beyond even ordinary spiritual knowledge, as stated in the same Gopal Tapani Shruti. Vidya bhyam bina, quote, thus, in many ways, the supremacy of Lord Krishna has been established in the Vedic literature, and it is here confirmed by Lord Brahma himself. Text 24. Those who have received the clear vision of knowledge from the sun-like spiritual master can see you, in this way, as the very soul of all souls, the supersoul of everyone's own self. Thus, understanding your original personality, they are able to cross over the ocean of illusory material existence. Purport. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chamedevyam evamyavaritatvata Takta deham pranarjanma naitimam eti sarjana. Quote, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. End quote. Text 25. A person who mistakes a rope for a snake becomes fearful, but he then gives up his fear upon realizing the so-called snake does not exist. Similarly, for those who fail to recognize you as the supreme soul of all souls, the expansive illusory material existence arises, but knowledge of you at once causes it to subside. Purport. Those submerged in illusion see material existence as infinite, just as one who is submerged in water sees only water all around him. For example, material scientists and philosophers submerged deep within the ocean of material illusion imagine that material nature extends infinitely in all directions. In fact, the material creation is a finite ocean of ignorance in which foolish living entities, such as material scientists, are unceremoniously dunked by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To be trapped in a world in which all things are born and die is certainly a fearful experience. Anyone trapped in a dark place naturally becomes fearful. Since material life is always covered by the darkness of ignorance, every conditioned soul is fearful. The material nature is not ultimate reality, and thus analysis of matter can never provide answers to ultimate questions. This dark, snake-like existence called material life immediately disappears as soon as one opens his eyes to the bright light of Krishna consciousness. Text 26. The conception of material bondage and the conception of liberation are both manifestations of ignorance. Being outside the scope of true knowledge, they cease to exist when one correctly understands that the pure spirit soul is distinct from matter and always fully conscious. At that time, bondage and liberation no longer have any significance, just as day and night have no significance from the perspective of the sun. Purport. Material bondage is illusion, because the living entity actually has no real relationship with the material world. Because of false ego, the conditioned soul identifies himself with matter. Therefore, so-called liberation is simply the giving up of an illusion rather than the release from actual bondage. Yet, even if we think that the suffering of material illusion is real, and that liberation is thus a meaningful release from suffering, the mere absence of material existence is still insignificant compared to the achievement of factual spiritual life, which is the positive eternal reality opposed from the negative illusion of material life. Ultimately, Krishna consciousness, or pure love of Godhead, is the only significant, meaningful, and permanent status for every living entity. Since the darkness of night is caused by the absence of the sun, one would not experience night within the sun itself, nor would one experience individual days separated by nights. Similarly, when the pure living entity is within the pure living entity, there is no material darkness, and thus no experience of liberation from such darkness. When the conditioned soul comes to this platform of pure consciousness, he becomes fit to associate with the Supreme Pure, the personality of Godhead himself, in the Lord's own abode. Text 27. Just see the foolishness of those ignorant persons who consider you to be some separated manifestation of illusion, and who consider the self, which is actually you, to be something else, the material body. Such fools conclude that the Supreme Soul is to be searched for somewhere outside your Supreme Personality. Purport. Lord Brahma is amazed at the gross ignorance of conditioned souls who consider Lord Krishna's supreme spiritual body to be material. Ignorant of the spiritual form of the Lord, such persons also consider their own material bodies to be the self, and therefore they conclude that spiritual reality is to be found somewhere beyond the supreme personality of Lord Krishna. Sometimes such fools consider Lord Krishna to be one of many individual souls who together constitute a single impersonal spiritual entity. Unfortunately, such speculators are not inclined to hear from the Lord himself or from the Lord's authorized representatives, such as Lord Brahma. Because they whimsically speculate on the nature of the Supreme, their ultimate result is confusion and ignorance, which they euphemistically describe as, quote, the mystery of life, end quote. Text 28. O unlimited Lord, saintly devotees seek you out within their own bodies by rejecting everything separate from you. Indeed, how can discriminating persons appreciate the real nature of a rope lying before them until they refute the illusion that is a snake? Purport. One may argue that a person should cultivate self-realization and at the same time pursue sense gratification for the material body. This proposition is herein refuted by the example of misidentifying a rope as a snake. One who mistakes a rope for a snake becomes fearful and thinks of the so-called snake. But upon discovering that the so-called snake is actually a rope, he experiences a different emotion, relief, and can then ignore the rope. Similarly, when we misunderstand the material body to be the self, we are experiencing many emotions in relation to the body. Upon discovering, however, that the body is simply a bag of material chemicals, We carefully note how this illusion was created and then lose interest in the body. Discovering that we are actually an eternal soul within the body, we naturally focus our attention on that real self. Those who are saintly and wise always cultivate Krishna consciousness, spiritual knowledge, having transcended the foolish misidentification of the body as the self. Such Krishna-conscious persons go on to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who dwells within the material body as the Supersoul, the witness and guide of every living entity. Realization of the Supersoul and the individual soul is so pleasing and satisfying that a self-realized person automatically gives up everything irrelevant to his spiritual advancement. Text 29. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. Purport. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, Chapter 6, Text 84. Lord Krishna is very eager to bestow his mercy upon the conditioned living beings who are uselessly struggling with the Lord's illusory energy, Maya. The conditioned soul struggles for happiness through sense gratification and for knowledge through mental speculation. Both processes ultimately bring him to a morose and hopeless condition. If the conditioned soul surrenders to the lotus feet of Krishna and thus acquires even a trace of his causeless mercy, the whole situation is changed and the living entity can begin his real life of bliss and knowledge in Krishna consciousness. Text 30. My dear Lord, I therefore pray to be so fortunate that in this life as Lord Brahma or in another life, wherever I may take birth, I may be counted as one of your devotees. I pray that wherever I may be, even among the animal species, I can engage in devotional service to your lotus feet. Text 31. O Almighty Lord, how greatly fortunate are the cows and ladies of Vrindavan, the nectar of whose breast milk you have happily drunk to your full satisfaction, taking the form of their calves and children. All the Vedic sacrifices performed from time immemorial up to the present day have not given you so much satisfaction. Text 32. How greatly fortunate are Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men, and all the other inhabitants of Rajabhumi. There is no limit to their good fortune, because the absolute truth, the source of transcendental bliss, the supreme eternal Brahman, has become their friend. Purport. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, Chapter 6, Text 149. Text 33. Though the extent of the good fortune of these residents of Vrindavan is inconceivable, we 11 presiding deities of the various senses headed by Lord Shiva are also most fortunate, because the senses of those devotees of Vrindavan are the cups through which we repeatedly drink the nectarian intoxicating beverage of the honey of your lotus feet. Text 34. My greatest possible good fortune would be to take birth, any birth, whatever, in this forest of Gokul, and have my head bathed by the dust falling from the lotus feet of any of its residents. Their entire life and soul is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mukunda, the dust of whose lotus feet is still being searched for in the Vedic mantras. Purport. This verse indicates that Lord Brahma desires to take birth even as the smallest blade of grass in Vrindavan, so that the holy residents of the Lord's abode may walk upon his head and bless him with the dust of their feet. Being realistic, Lord Brahma does not aspire to directly achieve the dust of Lord Krishna's feet. Rather, he aspires for the mercy of the Lord's devotees. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Brahma is willing to take birth even as a stone in a paved footpath in the Lord's abode. Since Brahma is the creator of the entire universe, we can just imagine the glorious position of the residents of Vrindavan. The Lord's devotees achieve their exalted position by unalloyed devotion and love. One cannot achieve such spiritual opulence by any puffed-up material process of personal improvement. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada reveals the mind of Brahma as follows, quote, "But if I am not so fortunate to take birth within the forest of Vrindavan, I beg to be allowed to take birth outside the immediate area of Vrindavan so that when the devotees go out, they will walk over me. Even that would be a great fortune for me. I am just aspiring for a birth in which I will be smeared by the dust of the devotees' feet." Text 35. My mind becomes bewildered just trying to think of what reward other than you can be found anywhere. You are the embodiment of all benedictions which you bestow upon these residents of the cowherd community of Vrindavan. You have already arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members in exchange for her disguising herself as a devotee. So what is left for you to give these devotees of Vrindavan, whose homes, wealth, friends, dear relations, bodies, children, and very lives and hearts are all dedicated only to you? Text 36. My dear Lord Krishna, until people become your devotees, their material attachments and desires remain thieves, their homes remain prisons, and their affectionate feelings for their family members remain foot shackles. Purport. Apparently, the residents of Vrindavan, the abode of Lord Krishna, are simple householders engaged in ordinary affairs, such as herding cows, cooking, rearing children, and performing religious ceremonies. However, all these activities are intensely engaged in the loving service of Lord Krishna. The residents of Vrindavan perform all activities in pure Krishna consciousness and thus exist on the most exalted platform of liberated life. Otherwise, such same activities performed without Krishna consciousness constitute ordinary bondage to the material world. Thus, one should not misunderstand the exalted position of the residents of Vrindavan, nor should one consider oneself highly religious simply because one performs ordinary domestic affairs very enthusiastically but without Krishna consciousness. By focusing our passionate attachment on our family and society, we are completely deviated from the progressive path of Krishna consciousness. Conversely, if we engage our family in the loving service of the Lord, our endeavors to maintain our family become part and parcel of our progressive spiritual duties. In conclusion, by studying the extraordinary status of the residents of Vrindavan, we can see that the essential quality of their lives is pure Krishna consciousness, the rendering of loving service to the Lord without a trace of material desire or mental speculation. Such loving service to the original personality of Godhead immediately creates the atmosphere of Sri Vrindavan Dham, the kingdom of God. Text 37. My dear Master, although you have nothing to do with material existence, you come to this earth and imitate material life just to expand the varieties of ecstatic enjoyment for your surrendered devotees. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that just as a lamp does not seem to shine as brightly in sunlight as it does in the shade, or as a diamond does not seem as brilliant on a silver platter as it does on a plate of blue glass, the Lord's pastimes as Govinda do not seem as amazing in the transcendental abode of Vaikuntha as they do within the material realm of Maya. Lord Krishna comes to the earth and acts toward his pure devotees exactly like a devoted son, boyfriend, husband, father, friend, and so on. And within the darkness of material existence, these brilliant, liberated pastimes give unlimited ecstasy to the surrendered devotees of the Lord. In his Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada quotes Lord Brahma as follows, quote, I can also understand that your appearance as a small cowherd boy, a child of the cowherd men, is not at all a material activity. You are so much obliged by their affection that you are here to enthuse them with more loving service by your transcendental presence. Text 38. There are people who say, quote, I know everything about Krishna, end quote. Let them think that way. As far as I am concerned, I do not wish to speak very much about this matter. O my Lord, let me say this much. As far as your opulences are concerned, they are all beyond the reach of my mind, body, and words. Purport. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 21, text 27. Text 39. My dear Krishna, I now humbly request permission to leave. Actually, you are the knower and seer of all things. Indeed, you are the Lord of all the universes, and yet I offer this one universe unto you. Purport. In his Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada has quoted Lord Brahma as follows, quote, My dear Lord, although you are the Supreme Lord of all creation, I sometimes falsely think that I am the master of this universe. I may be the master of this universe, but there are innumerable universes, and there are also innumerable Brahmas who preside over these universes. But actually, you are the master of them all. As the Supersoul in everyone's heart, you know everything. Please, therefore, accept me as your surrendered servant. I hope that you will excuse me for disturbing you in your pastimes with your friends and calves. Now, if you will kindly allow me, I will immediately leave so that you can enjoy your friends and calves without my presence. End quote. The words Sarvam Tvam Veshti Sarvajik are very significant here. Lord Krishna knows everything and sees everything, and therefore Lord Brahma did not need to remain in Vrindavan to maintain his personal loving contact with the Lord. In fact, as the creator of the universe, Lord Brahma was somewhat out of place in this simple, blissful atmosphere of Vrindavan, where Lord Krishna was exhibiting his supreme opulences in herding cows, enjoying picnics, playing games, and so on. Upon seeing the intense love the residents of Vrindavan had for Lord Krishna, Brahma felt unqualified to remain there. He was not eager to give up the Lord's association, but he felt it better to return to his personal devotional service in Brahmaloka. Somewhat embarrassed and unhappy over his foolish attempt at bewildering the Lord, Brahma preferred to resume his transcendental loving service rather than try to enjoy the Lord's presence. Text 40. My dear Sri Krishna, you bestow happiness upon the lotus-like Vrishni dynasty and expand the great oceans consisting of the earth, the demigods, the brahmanas, and the cows. You dispel the dense darkness of irreligion and depose the demons who have appeared on this earth. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, as long as this universe exists and as long as the sun shines, I will offer my obeisances unto you. Purport. According to Srila Sanatana Goswami, Lord Brahma is here engaged in the ecstasy of Nam Sankirtan, glorifying various holy names of the Lord Krishna that indicated his variegated pastimes. Lord Krishna expertly suppressed the demonic population of the earth, which became unbearable with the advent of demonic politicians like Kamsa, Jarasandha, and Shishupal. Similarly, in modern society, there are many so-called God-fearing people who are actually attracted to demoniac existence. Such persons become enlivened with the setting of the sun and go out in the darkness to enjoy life in restaurants, nightclubs, discotheques, hotels, and so on, which are all simply meant for illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat-eating. Then there are those who openly defy God and his laws, declaring themselves atheists and demons. Both the covert and overt enemies of the Lord constitute an unholy burden for the earth, and Lord Krishna descends to expertly remove this burden. Here, Lord Brahma indirectly states that Lord Krishna should remove Brahma's own subtle atheism, which had led him to try to exert illusory power over Lord Krishna. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lord Brahma, in his shame, felt himself to be like a Brahma Rakshasa from Satyaloka who had come to this earth to disturb Lord Krishna and his intimate friends and calves. Brahma is lamenting that although Lord Krishna is most exalted, the Lord of all lords, because he had appeared before Brahma in such a simple and innocent feature, decorated with a stick, a conch shell, ornaments, red clay, peacock feather, and so on, and sporting with his cowherd boyfriends, Brahma dared challenge him. Concerning Brahma's prayers, of which this verse is the conclusion, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states, quote, "May these prayers of Brahma, which take away all doubts and broadcast the definitive conclusions of devotional service, become the expert craftsmanship of the foundation of my consciousness." End quote. Text 41. Shukadev Goswami said, "Having thus offered his prayers, Brahma circumambulated his worshipable Lord, the unlimited personality of Godhead, 3 times, and then bowed down at his lotus feet. The appointed creator of the universe then returned to his own residence." Purport. Although Lord Brahma had taken his birth as a blade of grass, or had prayed to take birth as a blade of grass in Vrindavan, or even the area surrounding Vrindavan, Lord Krishna, by his silent response to Brahma's prayers, indicated that Brahma should return to his own abode. First, Brahma had to complete his personal devotional service of universal creation. Then he could come to Vrindavan and get the mercy of the inhabitants there. In other words, a devotee should always be attentive to executing his personal devotional service properly. This is more important than trying to live in the Lord's abode. Text 42. After granting his son Brahma permission to leave, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took the calves, who were still where they had been a year earlier, and brought them to the riverbank where he had been taking his meal, and where his cowherd boyfriends remained just as before. Purport. The word svabhavam, quote, "to his own son," end quote, indicates that Lord Krishna forgave the offense Brahma had committed and treated him with affection as his son. It is stated that in this verse that the original cowherd boyfriends and calves were situated just as before, near the bank of the Yamuna River and in the forest, respectively. Previously, the calves had disappeared within the forest, and Lord Krishna had gone to search for them. Not finding them, the Lord had returned to the riverbank to discuss the situation with his cowherd boyfriends, but they had also disappeared. Now the cows were once again in the forest, and the boyfriends once again on the bank of the river, ready to take their lunch. According to Srila Sanatana Goswami, the calves and boys remained in the forest and on the riverbank, respectively, for 1 full year. Lord Brahma did not actually take them away to another place, but by the Lord's omnipotent illusory energy, the gopis and other residents of Vrindavan did not notice the calves and boys, nor did the calves and boys notice the passing of a year's time, or feel any hunger, cold, or thirst. All this was part of the pastime arranged by the Lord's illusory potency. Lord Brahma thought, quote, "I have kept all the boys and calves of Golokul sleeping on the bed of my mystic potency, and to this very day they have not yet arisen. A similar number of boys and calves have been playing with Krishna for 1 whole year, yet they are different from the ones illusioned by my mystic potency. Who are they? Where did they come from?" End quote. Nothing is invisible to the Supreme Lord. Thus, Lord Krishna appeared to be searching for the calves and boys only to enact the dramatic pastime of bewildering Lord Brahma. After Brahma surrendered and offered prayers, Lord Krishna returned to the original boys and calves, who appeared exactly as before, although their size had somewhat increased because of 1 year's growth. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, since Lord Krishna was playing exactly like an innocent young cowherd boy in Vrindavan, after four-headed Brahma offered his prayers, the Lord maintained his role as a young cowherd boy and thus remained silent before Brahma. Krishna's silence indicates the following thoughts. Quote, Where did this four-headed Brahma come from? What is he doing? What are these words he keeps on speaking? I am busy looking for my calves. I am just a cowherd boy, and I do not understand all this." End quote. Lord Brahma had considered Lord Krishna an ordinary cowherd boy and had treated him as such. After accepting Brahma's prayers, Krishna continued to play as a cowherd boy and thus did not answer the four-headed Brahma. Rather, Krishna was more interested in rejoining his cowherd boyfriends for the picnic lunch on the bank of the Yamuna River. 643. O king, although the boys had passed an entire year apart from the Lord of their very lives, they had been covered by the Lord Krishna's illusory potency and thus considered that year merely half a moment. Text 44. What indeed is not forgotten by those whose minds are bewildered by the Lord's illusory potency? By that power of Maya, this entire universe remains in perpetual bewilderment, and in this atmosphere of forgetfulness, no one can understand his own identity. Purport. It is clearly stated here that the entire universe is bewildered. Thus, even great demigods like Indra and Brahma are not exempt from the principle of forgetfulness. Since Lord Krishna exercised his internal illusory potency over his cowherd boyfriends and calves, it is not at all astonishing that for 1 year they could not remember their position. Indeed, by the Lord's external illusory potency, the conditioned souls forget their existence not only for 1 year, but for many billions and billions of years as they transmigrate throughout the kingdom of ignorance called the material world. Text 45. The cowherd boyfriend said to Lord Krishna, "You've returned so quickly. We have not even eaten one morsel in your absence. Please come here and take your meal without distraction." Purport. The words Svagatam te tiramhamsa hasa indicate that the cowherd boys were congratulating Lord Krishna for having brought the calves back so quickly from the forest. Now Lord Krishna's beloved friends urged him to sit down properly and eat to his full satisfaction. According to Srila Prabhupada's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cowherd boyfriends felt quite jubilant and were eager to eat with their dear friend Krishna. Text 46. Then Lord Rishikesh, smiling, finished his lunch in the company of his cowherd friends. While they were returning from the forest to their homes in Vraja, Krishna showed the cowherd boys the skin of the dead serpent, Aghasura. Text 47. Lord Krishna's transcendental body was decorated with peacock feathers and flowers and painted with forest minerals, and his bamboo flute loudly and festively resounded. As he called out to his calves by name, his cowherd boyfriend purified the whole world by chanting his glories. Thus, Lord Krishna entered the cow pasture of his father, Nanda Maharaj, and the sight of his beauty at once produced a great festival for the eyes of all the cowherd women. Purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the gopis mentioned here are the elder cowherd ladies, such as Mother Yasoda, who loved Krishna with parental affection. Krishna's cowherd boyfriends were so proud of Krishna's wonderful activities that while entering the village, they all sang his glories. Text 48. As the cowherd boys reached the village of Vraja, they sang, quote, "Today, Krishna saved us by killing a great serpent," end quote. Some of the boys described Krishna as the son of Yashoda and others as the son of Nanda Maharaj. Purport. Actually, Lord Krishna had killed the demon Aghasura 1 year earlier, but the boys, bewildered by the mystic potency of Brahma for 1 year, did not notice the time passing and thus thought that on that very day Lord Krishna had killed the demon Aghasura and was now returning home with them. Text 49. King Parikshit said, "O Brahmana, how could the cowherd women have developed for Krishna, someone else's son, such unprecedented pure love they never felt even for their own children? Please explain this." Text 50. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, "O king, for every created being, the dearmost thing is certainly his own self. the dearness of everything else, children, wealth, and so on, is due only to the dearness of the self. Purport. Sometimes modern thinkers become puzzled when they study the psychology of moral behavior. Although every living entity is inclined toward self-preservation, as stated here, sometimes a person voluntarily sacrifices his own apparent interests through philanthropic or patriotic activities, such as giving his money for the benefit of others or giving his life for the national interest. Such so-called selfless behavior appears to contradict the principle of material self-centeredness and self-preservation. As explained in this verse, however, a living entity serves his society, nation, family, and so on only because these objects of affection represent the expanded concept of false ego. A patriot sees himself as a great servitor of a great nation, and thus he sacrifices his life to gratify his sense of egotism. Similarly, it is common knowledge that a man feels great pleasure by thinking that he is sacrificing everything to please his dear wife and children. A man derives great egotistic pleasure by seeing himself as a selfless well-wisher of his so-called family and community. Thus, to gratify his proud sense of false ego, a man is prepared even to lay down his life. This apparently contradictory behavior is yet another demonstration of the bewilderment of material life, which has neither rhyme nor reason, being a manifestation of gross ignorance of the non-material soul. Text 51. For this reason, O best of kings, the embodied soul is self-centered. He is more attached to his own body and self than to his so-called possessions like children, wealth, and home. Purport. It is now a common practice all over the world for a mother to kill her own child within the womb if the birth of that child represents any inconvenience for her. Similarly, grown children eagerly place their elderly parents in lonely institutions rather than be inconvenienced by their presence at home. These and innumerable other examples prove that people in general are more attached to their own body and self, which represents, quote, I-ness, end quote, than to their family and other possessions, which represent, quote, my-ness, end quote. Although conditioned souls are very proud of their so-called love for family, society, and so forth, in reality, every conditioned soul is acting on the platform of gross or subtle selfishness. Text 52. Indeed, for persons who think the body is the self, O best of kings, those things whose importance lies only in their relationship to the body are never as dear as the body itself. Text 53. If a person comes to the stage of considering the body, quote, mine, end quote, instead of, quote, me, end quote, he will certainly not consider the body as dear as his own self. After all, even as the body is growing old and useless, one's desire to continue living remains strong. Report. The word mamatma bak is very significant here. An ordinary foolish person thinks, quote, I am this body, end quote. A more discriminating, intelligent person thinks, quote, this is my body, end quote. In the literature and folklore of ordinary people, we find the common theme of an old, decrepit person dreaming of obtaining a new, young body. Thus, even ordinary persons pick up the notion of self-realization, instinctively understanding that it is possible for the soul to exist in many different bodies. As the body of an intelligent person becomes old and useless, he strongly desires to live, even when he knows that his body cannot live very much longer. This indicates that he's gradually becoming aware that his self is more important than his body. Thus, simply the desire for life can indirectly bring one to a preliminary understanding of self-realization. And in this case as well, one's basic attachment to one's own self and not to that which supposedly belongs to oneself. It may be pointed out that the entire discussion between King Parikshit and Shukadev Goswami regarding the dearness of one's own self is ultimately meant for broaching the subject of why the cows and cowherd ladies of Vrindavan considered Krishna more dear than their own selves and certainly more dear than their own offspring. The discussion proceeds as follows. Text 54. Therefore, it is his own self that is most dear to every embodied living being, and it is simply for the satisfaction of this self that the whole material creation of moving and non-moving entities exists. Purport. The word characharam indicates moving living entities such as animals and non-moving living entities such as trees. Or the word may refer to moving possessions such as one's family and pets, and non-moving possessions such as one's house and household paraphernalia. Text 55. You should know Krishna to be the original soul of all living entities. For the benefit of the whole universe, he has, out of his causeless mercy, appeared as an ordinary human being. He has done this by the strength of his internal potency. Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 20, verse 162, Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse as follows, quote, Maharaj Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami why Krishna was so beloved by the residents of Vrindavan, who loved him even more than their own offspring or life itself. At that time, Shukadeva Goswami replied that everyone's Atma or soul is very, very dear, especially to all living entities who have accepted material bodies. However, that Atma, the spirit soul, is part and parcel of Krishna. For this reason, Krishna is very dear to every living entity. Everyone's body is very dear to oneself, and one wants to protect the body by all means because within the body, the soul is living. Due to the intimate relationship between the soul and the body is important and dear to everyone. Similarly, the soul, being part and parcel of Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is very, very dear to all living entities. Unfortunately, the soul forgets his constitutional position and thinks he is only the body, Dehatma Buddhi. Thus, the soul is subjected to the rules and regulations of material nature. When a living entity, by his intelligence, reawakens his attraction for Krishna, he can understand that he is not the body, but part and parcel of Krishna. Thus, filled with knowledge, he no longer labors under attachment to the body and everything related to the body. Janasya mohayam ahamameti. Material existence, wherein one thinks, quote, I am the body and this belongs to me, end quote, is also illusory. One
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Aganiyasya Sakale Vyaviti Bhakti Pashanti Panti Kalati Srila Jaganti Ananda Shemaya Sadhu Jana Vidyasya Govinda Adipurusham Tamaham Vijayami Govinda Adipurusham Tamaham Vijayami Govinda Adipurusham. Jai Radha Shama Sundara Shama Sundara 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 Jai Radha Lalitam Shakarada Damodara Swami Gora Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhaktavrinda Jai Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Jai Gurudev Gurudeva Gurudev Jai Jai Gurudev Jai Jai Gurudev 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 Jai Gurari Bolo Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Gurari Bol Jai Gurari Bol Hari Bol Hari Hari Jai Shri Radha Shami Sundar Ki
Vatsala Sri Gaurahari Vajabhakata Vatsala Sri Gaurahari Sri Gaurahari Sahi Goshta Bihari Nanda Jasomati Chitahari Ela Holo Damodara Ishaye Kono পাইছে গিরিবরদারি বলদেব সহ সখা বৈশে সরি সরি সুপ্তা সখারি বাজি লালিত কুষ্মণ্ড দালিদানা দুর্গা তুমি দাদি মোচা কন্দ দবরমাস বোধরতি কবৃতানা সাস্কুলি পৃষ্ঠা কাকির পুলি পায়াসন্না কাপুর অমৃত খেলি রামবাকির সারা অমৃত রসালঙ্গ দ্বাদশ পকরা লুচি চিনি সার পুরি লাডু রসবালি ভোজন করে না কৃষ্ণ হয়ে কুতূহলী রাধিকার পাকায়না বিবিধ ব্যঞ্জন পরময়ানন্দে কৃষ্ণ করে নবজান চালে বালে লাডু খাই শ্রীমধু মঙ্গল বগল বজায় দেয় হরি বল রাধিকারি গানি হেরি নয়নের কোণে তৃপ্ত হয়ে খায় কৃষ্ণ যশোদা ভবানী ভোজন দিয়ে কৃষ্ণ সুবাসিত বারি সবে মুখ প্রকালয় করে সরি সরি আস্ত মুখ প্রকালিয়া যত সক গানে আনন্দে বিশ্রাম করে বলদেব সানে জাম্বুল রসালানে তাম্বুল মশালা তাহাকে কৃষ্ণচন্দ্র সুখে নিজ দেলা বিশালাকাশী কি পূজা শ্যামর দুলায়া অপূর্ব সায়ায় কৃষ্ণ সুখে নিরয়ায় যশোমতি অঙ্গ প্রিয় ধনিষ্ঠয়নীত শ্রীকৃষ্ণ প্রসাদ রাধা কুঞ্জে হয়ে প্রীত ললিতারি সাক্ষী গানা অবশেষ পায়া মনে মনে সুখে রাধা কৃষ্ণ গুণ গায় হরি লীলা একমাত্র যাহার প্রমোদ ভোগারতি গায় ঠাকুর ভক্তি বিনোদ কত বৎসল শ্রী গৌর হরি বজব কত বৎসল শ্রী গৌর হরি শ্রী গৌর হরি সহি গোষ্ঠ বিহারী সহি গোষ্ঠ বিহারী নন্দ যশোমতি চিতহরি নন্দ যশোমতি চিতহরি ভজ গোবিন্দ গোবিন্দ গোপালা 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 গায় গোরা মধুস্বরে গায় গোরা মধুস্বরে মায়া জলে পদ হয়ে আচমিছে কাজলয়ে মায়া জলে পদ হয়ে আচমিছে কাজলয়ে মায়া জলে পদ হয়ে আচমিছে কাজলয়ে মায়া জলে বদ হয়ে আচমিছে কাজলয়ে এখন আছে ধনা পেয়ে রাধা মাধব নাম বলো রে এখন আছে ধনা পেয়ে রাধা মাধব নাম বলো রে এখন আছে ধনা পেয়ে রাধা মাধব নাম বলো রে এখন আছে ধনা পেয়ে রাধা মাধব নাম বলো রে গায় গোরা মধুস্বরে গায় গোরা মধুস্বরে জীবন হইল সে না বজিলে ঋষিকে জীবন হইল সে না বজিলে ঋষিকে জীবন হইল
All right, see you in the class. Hey, you.